So I want to begin with just a couple of announcements as we would on a regular Shabbat morning. Firstly, to address those who are due our condolences this week and those who earn our congratulations this week. This week was a lighter week in terms of the condolences. That's writ large, obviously, for Linda Ashkenazi, whose mother passed away last week but was buried on Wednesday. Her mother, Mrs. Lily Lannon. It was a heavy week for those who were sitting Shiva this week. It was also a heavy week, and our condolences and our wishes for comfort go out to them. Of course, no one can be in shul to hear everybody turn and face them after Lachadodi and say, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Shar Avei Tzion v'Yushalayim, and we wish them comfort in the days and weeks ahead. We also had a number of Mazel Tovs this week, and you'll forgive me if I mispronounce any of these names, but we wish them celebration and we wish them many more smachot, and we look forward to sharing smachot in person with everybody. So we have Mazel Tov to Helen Bohorazna on the birth of a grandson, born to her children Daniel and Jana Friedman. Mazel Tov to Debbie and Larry Zwaney on the birth of a grandson, born to their children Sarah and Yoni Goodman. And Mazel Tov to Debbie and Jerry King on the birth of a granddaughter born to their children Karen and David Jacobs. We wish them Mazel Tov, and we look forward to celebrating in person with each and every one of them and each and every one of you as well. And also note before I start, this evening is Yortzeit for Lois Weintraub's mother, Yehudit Bat Yaakov, and Penny Eulis's mother as well. And I was asked that the teaching that we cover this evening should be in their merit and their memory. Yaakov has his hand up as well. I don't know how to unmute you, as it were, but at the end I'll unmute you and you tell me, is that you have a Yortzeit today as well? Yes? Okay, so I'm not sure how to unmute you at the moment, but I'll come to that. And in the meantime, the Chaim Aruchim wishes to you, Nisham should have Nelia and Yaakov, the memory of the Yortzeit that you commemorate today should also be for merit and for blessing. So I now turn to my thought that I hope to share with you this afternoon. This is perhaps the most corporal of parshiot in the canon. The text veers from the shades and the shapes of skin conditions to the complications of unanticipated bodily emissions, detailing the examinations and admonitions of the priestly equivalent of physicians and the necessary contrition of the sinner. And beyond the afflictions of flesh, we're told that fabric can get infected in the woof or the warp of wool or linen or any shred of leather. Stains of deep red or deep green lead to a week-long quarantine. And if on reinspection the cloth is deemed to be indeed plagued with this metaphysical disease of tzarat, it is destroyed and seared in fire. But what is most astonishing about tzarat, this biblical affliction, is that it can go beyond the flesh and fabric, beyond skins and strings, to bricks and mortar. In the second of our parshiot, in Metzora, it says, Ki tavo el eretz Canaan, when you come to the land of Canaan, v'natati negad tzarat b'veit eretz machuzatchem, and I shall place this plague of tzarat upon your houses. So real estate, it seems, is not beyond the reach of this disease, for if a green or red indent presents in a stone fence or residence, it must be assessed by the eyes of a priest. And once our ancestors made it to the land of their dreams, either due to the land's inherent sanctity or their fresh mental serenity, their homes became susceptible to this horrific malady. And before I get to my question, allow me to say just a couple of things. My middle name, some of you may know, is Natan. And my parents chose that name in honor of a hero who was released from captivity in the month before I was born, Natan Sharansky. And it is our privilege to have the invitation and the opportunity to hear from him this coming Sunday at 12:30 p.m. New York time. And an email will go out again with a link to join that on Sunday. And beyond for me the pride of that association and the one with the ancient prophet who spoke truth to power, the name itself, Natan, bespeaks a deep gratitude. For the root nun, taf, nun denotes a gift. In Hebrew, matana is a gift. And in fact, if we take a superficial survey of scripture, just looking at one conjugation of that root, venatati, the first person future tense, we find ourselves ensconced in the presence of bountiful celestial benevolence. God says, venatati, and I will give, in the context of promises to our patriarchs and our prophets and our people. For just a couple of examples, God says, venatati lacha ulezarcha acharecha et haaretz. He says to Abraham, I will give to you and your progeny the land. As we say in the prayer for the land of Israel every week, venatati shalom ba'aretz. In Vayikra, God says, I will give peace into the land. In Shema, we say every day, venatati mita'arzechem be'ito. I will give you rain in its time. Venatati esev b'sadcha. It will give you grass in your field. Venatati b'tzion teshua. In Isaiah, he says, I will give in Zion salvation. And in Jeremiah, he says, venatati lahem lev ledat oti. I will give you a heart to know me. Venatati is a signal of bequeathing a gift. And here's my question. Why, in the context of our houses, leprous infection, does God see our loss as a gift? He says, venatati nega tzara b'veit eretz achuzatchem, and I will bestow, I will bequeath, I will gift you this leprosy on our houses. He phrases this plague as though it bespeaks favor rather than pain, as though it signals generosity rather than displeasure, as if on seeing tzaraat on the walls of our homes, we would be grateful rather than afraid. To put it simply, why, in contrast to the tzaraat of our skin and our strings, does God seem to think that contaminated bricks are a gift? And there are two answers to this question that I'd like to share with you this Erev Shabbat and this Rosh Chodesh. And first, from a figure that we've had occasion to cite in the past, the Or HaChaim. And for the Or HaChaim, the reason that Nigei Batim, that these leprous bricks are a gift, is not because of what they are, but because of what they are not. Leprous bricks, he notes, are neither limbs, nor skin, nor kin. They are an unadulterated economic loss, but they are not precious in the deepest sense of the word. They are painful to lose, but not irreplaceable. And for this reason, after having detailed the meticulous procedures around the disease that censures sinners by eating at their skin and the clothes on the back, God breathes relief at the prospect in the future of afflicting their bricks. Instead, ki tavo el haaretz, he says, when finally you get to the land, natati neged sarat b'veit achuzatchem, I will put the sarat on your homes. For the Or HaChaim, the sight of a diseased stone in one's home should, while a reproof for sin, simultaneously awaken an appreciation for the remove at which the affliction hit. Gratitude should suffuse one's roused comprehension, blended into one's penitence, as sticks and stones in need of disposal are not limbs or people. To put it simply, for the Or HaChaim, in a world in which skin can be afflicted, leprous bricks are indeed a gift. But there is another way of reading this counterintuitive bequest, God's insinuation of a gift in the context of domiciliary leprosy. And for this we turn to Rashi, who in turn, as he often does, cites our sages. For them, this promise on God's part to welcome our ancestors into their land with a threat against their home was in fact good news. In their words, it was a besorah, a tiding, for it had nothing to do with the tzarat of skin or string, cases which are discussed in the first of this week's two parshiot, prior to and at a remove from our subject. For Rashi and his midrashic source, the affliction on houses was not simply a gift in relative terms, it was a reward It was not merely a lessening of pain or the benefit of an indirect condemnation. It was, in essence, a remuneration. It was to be sought after. And if one saw leprosy on one's walls, it was a cause for celebration. For in the eyes of legend, Tzara of the home was equivalent to modern day infrared technology appearing on walls that hid wealth and treasure. Ki tavo el aretz Canaan, when you get to the land of Canaan, God says, when you get to the land filled with homes of those who have been hostile to you, your enemies and nemesis, when you get there, natati neged tzarat b'veit achuzatchem, I will plague the homes where there are treasures hidden with this disease, so you know how to dig and unearth wealth, riches, and treasure. When you get to the land, God says, I will bestow upon your homes what seems like a disease, but beneath it, riches lie beyond your wildest dreams. Now, of course, loss is real. Grief and pain and tragedy and agony and anxiety and uncertainty are all real, and there is no disguising the pain and the uncertainty and the loss and the sense of assault that has afflicted us all over the past week. What this legend by Rashi invites us to do is not to mistake this pain for a blessing, but to endeavor to excavate some treasure from this crisis. Rabbi Sachs has noted on a number of occasions that the Hebrew word for crisis, mashber, is also the Hebrew word for a birthing stool. And he says, written into the semantics of Jewish consciousness is the idea that the pain of hard times is a collective form of contraction in labor. Because during crises, we discover new things about ourselves. We discover what we miss and what we don't, what we treasure and what we love. We discover the things and what the things that we've lost mean to us, and what we intend to do when we have the chance to regain the things that we can. Last night, more than 100 screens were tuned in to listen to our friends Michelle and Khani and Gita and Jay, to whom we are so grateful for their leadership and wisdom and support. And beyond the information that was disseminated, to me, just seeing all your faces was moving. To see 100 screens of people who we miss, who we cannot see in the flesh at shul, was so moving. And it has been wondrous to see so many people tuning in to our Zoom shiurim and quasi minyanim and programs over the past week. It has been so touching to see your faces on a weekly and for some on a daily basis, giving us all a sense of rootedness and community, and showing us what we miss and how we intend, when things return, to come back together. Now, many have lost much at this time. Some have lost the most. And on some level, we have all lost something. But beneath the walls of this disease, there are treasures to be revealed. As John Kramer observed after one Mariv earlier this week, in between discussions of Fauda and soccer, he noted that the quiet and the silence and the stillness that has been imposed upon us by this crisis offers an opportunity for many of us to reflect and introspect and wonder in ways that ordinary life often impedes. So I ask us to embrace what our sages saw as an infrared theology, digging beneath the debris of this disease for the seeds of newfound meaning. And in that spirit, I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace and rest and health and calm and blessing, and most of all, a Shabbat of discovery. And I look forward to seeing you all at Havdalah at 9 p.m. I will give you now the chance to unmute yourself in one moment. You may now all unmute yourselves. Yaakov, We want to wish you Chayim
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom. Be well.
Guys.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom,
Thanks, everybody.
Ralphers, and Summers, and Peril, and Browns, wonderful, and Beanstalk, and
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
subscribers and primers and the
Thanks, everybody.
and the Mirzov, and I see Norman and Julia, and I see the Blumenthals and the Cones, the bids coming in there, Chip.
Borzano.
Shabbos to the Rosenblums and to Jack,
I don't know where it went.
Ellie and Jesse and the Rosenzweig. You're enjoying the drive. I hope you're not actually driving. And to Linda and the Klein. And I see Jerry and Debbie. Mazel tov to you. Jay, you had another haircut?
Thank you.
Very nice. Good Shabbos. Oh, good Shabbos there. The Geliebtes, the good Shabbos to the Weintraub. And I'm losing your fast. Michael and Debbie, good Shabbos to you. And everybody whose faces I can't see and whose names are coded, I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing you all at 9 p.m.
Borzano.
Shabbos one and all.
Shabbos, everybody.
Chodesh Tov, everybody.
Shabbos.
What's up, Jerry?
Yaakov, go ahead, hit it.
Joy.